Kirsten's schoolwork. As an advisor, she's the
oh yeah, as I bring her home.
Mass, and I can't believe you're ruining it.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm ready to scare her.
That was comical. Thank you.
I did that to my neighbor the other day. It was in the garage. I thought he heard me coming.
Oh my God! You called bells on or something.
I think so.
I saved your chair.
Oh, thank you.
Hopefully they'll get us the microphone so we can hear, so it can get picked up.
That's what
I think that's what
Sheena was saying. She would make sure for the court reporter. She said she would make sure everyone was speaking into the microphone, because otherwise she's not going to be able to hear anything.
Oh my God, he's just grab on her.
She was all kinds of irritation because she didn't have an extension cord, and she said it wasn't set up properly.
She goes, I'm almost home.
When she got here.
St. Nick did come after the Bucks game, yes.
It's awesome.
Yeah. I had to wait for Martin to get home from work for the stockings on. I was sitting on the couch, dead exhausted. Mom's like, are you doing this? I'm like,
I went to the store and set the alarm. I was like, I can't do it. It was like 1 in the morning. I'm like, okay. Same time.
we made it. Yeah, he snuck in and we didn't know he was home. Bad. Just that's pretty hard.
Let me get a ball. Somebody, right.
That's okay. I guess it's the color. I was going to wear this color.
Yeah, sure can. Oh, it's a memo.
I got that one. Dear Mrs.
Oh my God.
I have recipes that are still written in shorthand. No, you should be able to read that. It's always late, so I don't know what it is.
That's important. And she just to talk to her and you know, sometimes I don't feel like it.
I'd like to welcome you to the Raymond School District Special Board of Education meeting, Wednesday, December 6, 2023, 5:30 p.m. here in the Raymond School Gymnasium. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public hearing. The board will not be offering a public comment period during this meeting. Our mission. The Raymond School District is dedicated to providing a child-centered learning environment, expecting all students to learn and succeed. We commit to providing and utilizing a progressive, relevant curriculum, encouraging all students to become responsible citizens prepared to meet the challenges of the future. This meeting is now called to order. Please rise and say the Pledge of
Allegiance of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Janelle? Audrey?
Here.
She looked the garbage.
Amanda?
Here.
Amy?
Here.
And Gwen present.
Thank you. Verification of public notice pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.801.
Properly posted.
Thank you. With that, I will turn this over to Shana Lewis, District's Counsel.
Thank you, Audrey. Good evening. My name is Shana Lewis. I'm an attorney with Rennie, Lewis, and Lacey. My role this evening is to assist the Raymond School District Board of Education with the hearing concerning the renewal or non-renewal of its administrator employment contract with Jeff Peterson. This hearing is being held in accordance with Wisconsin Statute 118.24 and Board Policy 3140, as well as the terms of Mr. Peterson's contract. In accordance with Wisconsin law, Mr. Peterson has requested that this meeting occur in open session. In accordance with that law, the board will hear this case in open session and will take action in open session. However, the board will deliberate over the decision and consult with legal counsel regarding any related legal issues in closed session. We recognize that this is a matter that has had a lot of interest from the school district staff, parents, students, and larger community. I suspect that many of you in attendance this evening have strong feelings on the subject before the board. For the sake of everyone involved, I respectfully request that you refrain from engaging in any actions that are disruptive or disorderly. It is important to remember that this is a meeting of the board in public and not a public hearing. Therefore, while we understand and recognize that your interest in this matter is great, we appreciate your cooperation, restraint, and decorum so as to allow this hearing to occur without interruption or incident. If anyone fails to respect this process, we will ask you to leave. If you refuse, we will have no choice but to involve law enforcement. I truly hope we do not have to do that this evening. The board has a very important job to do. It is possible that this will be a long night. Please do not make it any longer with unnecessary outbursts or disruption. Now I will briefly review the process that we will follow this evening so that everyone in the room understands what will be happening and when. We have a court reporter present. This is to make sure we have an accurate record of what transpires here tonight. As a result, I will need all parties, witnesses, and board members to speak up and to answer verbally when asked a question or when making a statement. If you speak quietly, or if you answer with a head nod or a head shake, I will be polite, but I will ask you to answer with a verbal response that can be recorded by the court reporter, because it is important that we have an accurate record of what happens here this evening. Despite what you may have heard, the board has not made any decisions regarding Mr. Peterson's employment yet. The board will make a decision based on the information presented tonight. The specific issue before the board is as follows. whether Jeff Peterson's administrator contract should be non-renewed effective June 30th, 2024. There is no just cause or other standard beyond an at-will standard that applies to this decision. Each party's attorney will have the opportunity as an initial action to make a brief opening statement. Following that brief opening statement by both parties' attorneys, Attorney Lori Lubinsky, who is representing the district's administration, will go first with her presentation of witnesses, arguments, and evidence for the board to consider. Witnesses will be sworn in by the court reporter. Witnesses, Attorney Haslam will have the opportunity to cross-examine each of the witnesses presented by Attorney Lubinsky. The board members will also have the opportunity to ask questions of the witnesses. They will do so by passing a note to me that will review the question and then pose the question if it is appropriate. After Attorney Lubinsky presents her case in full, then Attorney Haslam will have the opportunity to present his witnesses, evidence, and argument for the board to consider on behalf of Mr. Peterson. Attorney Lubinsky will have the opportunity to cross-examine each of his witnesses. They will also be sworn in, and the board members will also have the opportunity to ask questions of his witnesses. Please remember that the attorneys are here to ask the questions. Please let them do their job. If either party submits records for the board to consider, which I see that we have two sets of documents where each board member has a copy and each party has a copy, and there's a copy for the witness and the witness stand. We will have the board review those records when they deliberate and during the hearing. Finally, each party's attorney will have the opportunity for a brief closing statement at the end of the presentation of evidence. Once this case is submitted in full by the parties, the board will convene in closed session to deliberate. Other than the board members, I will be the only person in the room to assist them with legal questions related to their decision. I am not a voting member of this body and will not be doing so this evening. When the board is ready to make its decision, the board will return to this room, reconvene in open session, and take action if appropriate. Mr. Peterson is entitled to due process. What that means is that he is also entitled to an impartial body making this decision. To that end, I am going to be asking each board member to answer the following questions, and Gwen, I'm going to ask you to do a roll call with regard to this question. Board members, do you believe you can make a decision about Jeff Peterson's contract non-renewal based on the information presented by the parties during the hearing this evening, not based on any outside information, not based on his membership in a protected classification, including but not limited to his sexual orientation, and not based on the fact that he has filed legal complaints against the district?
Renell Wise.
Yes.
Audrey Kostic.
Yes.
Amanda Falashi.
Yes.
Amy Helbig.
Yes.
And Gwen Keller, yes.
Thank you. It is my understanding that Attorney Haslam has requested the opportunity to call the board members as witnesses during tonight's hearing. Is that still your request, Attorney Haslam?
Yes, it is.
Okay. As I've explained to Attorney Haslam, the board is the decision maker in this matter. Therefore, I have determined it is inappropriate to call board members as witnesses during this hearing. Based on a number of court decisions directly addressing this issue, which I have shared with both parties' attorneys, we have determined that the board members will not be testifying tonight. Any questions with regard to the procedures, Attorney Lubinsky? Attorney Haslam?
You mentioned the opening statement will be an opportunity for a closing statement as well.
Correct.
Thank you.
Hearing nothing else, we can proceed. Attorney Lubinsky.
Thank you. Just a point of clarification, are both parties doing the opening statements first, then the presentation witnesses?
If that is what you would like, what I was going to do is ask you if you wanted your opening statement, and then I was going to ask Attorney Haslam if he wanted to make his opening statement or reserve it for later.
All right, well, I'll do mine, and he can make his decision at that point. Good evening. Thank you. I'm going to move this microphone a little closer to me for benefit of the court reporter. As Attorney Lewis indicated, my name is Lori Lubinsky. I'm a lawyer at the law firm of Axley Runnelson in Madison, Wisconsin. I'm here representing administration. We come here tonight to formally recommend that the board non-renew Mr. Peterson's administrator contract effective June 30, 2024. I want to provide a very brief roadmap for the evidence we will present tonight. The goal of this roadmap is so that you can kind of follow along with why I'm mainly asking the questions that I'm asking. At this time, my witnesses are going to be Dr. Garvey, who is seated to my right, and possibly also Mr. Peterson, who is the administrator whose contract is at issue. We have a number of exhibits. You have in front of you a white binder. There are tabs in that white binder. I will refer to those as exhibits. So for example, if I say to Superintendent Garvey, turn to Exhibit 5, that just means you can follow along by going to tab 5, all right? With respect to the reason why we're here, as Attorney Lewis indicated, and we've had pre-hearing conferences with lawyers, we are all aligned of what the issue is. The issue is whether the board should renew or not renew Mr. Peterson's contract. We are also in agreement that the contract at issue is Mr. Peterson's 2024 administrator contract. That contract expires on June 30, 2024. Under Wisconsin statute, there are certain deadlines by which the board can take action to stop the rolling over, if you will, of that contract or the renewal of that contract. And thus, we are here today to recommend that you non-renew the contract. That will, if you agree with our recommendation, effectively that will mean that Mr. Peterson no longer has a contract with the school board and no longer is an employee of the Raymond School District effective July 1, 2024. With respect to the reasons, I want to reiterate something Attorney Lewis indicated, and that is this: neither the contract, nor law, nor board policy, nor anything in any handbook provides a standard by which the board should determine whether the evidence meets that standard to non-renew. You may have referred or heard of this in the concept of things like just cause, good cause, things of that nature. That standard does not exist. So the proof that we need to submit to convince you to not renew Mr. Peterson's contract does not require the presentation, frankly, of any evidence. Nonetheless, we will submit to you evidence which we believe supports the recommendation. From a procedural perspective, as you will see from the evidence we will offer, the board, in compliance with state statute, provided Mr. Peterson with what's called preliminary notice of non-renewal. And that's just a creature of state statute. It has to be done in order to get to this hearing. Mr. Peterson elected, and he had a legal right to request both the reasons for the recommendation and to have this hearing in open session. And as Attorney Lewis indicated, he's made the request for an open session. That's why we're here in open session. That is his right. But I want to emphasize that was his choice. Now, with respect to the reasons that Mr. Peterson requested, Mr. Peterson received through his counsel a letter dated November 22, 2023, wherein he was provided the reasons for the recommendation. I will submit to you that the evidence we intend to introduce tonight will support the reasons outlined in the November 22, 2023 letter. More specifically, I believe the evidence will show that Mr. Peterson has not satisfactorily complied with a performance improvement plan that he was put on or about April 24, 2023. More specifically, I submit to you the evidence will show that he did not adequately perform with respect to staff accountability, instructional practices, building of professional capacity, reducing staff division, professional ethics. Moreover, I believe the evidence will show that not only has Mr. Peterson not satisfactorily complied with his performance improvement plan, and in fact that his performance has not improved in those areas, but we also will show that Mr. Peterson believes that he has. In other words, Mr. Peterson is of the view that he has complied. We believe that is further evidence that the time to end the relationship effectively is June 30, 2024 will be his last day. And I say that because we believe the evidence will show that there is not an understanding or appreciation in Mr. Peterson's view that his performance simply is not acceptable with respect to the categories or the areas outlined in his performance improvement plan. I will also note that we will present evidence with respect to Mr. Peterson's history of discipline, and those are documented in the file. We will go over that briefly. We believe overall the evidence will show that this is a performance matter, that this is a performance concern, that we have an administrator who has not met reasonable, legitimate expectations, and that it is time to effectively end the relationship with Mr. Peterson effective at the end of his current contract. That's all I have for my opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Lubinsky. Attorney Haslam, would you like to make your opening statement now or reserve it for your case?
I'll reserve it for my case in chief, please.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Lubinsky.
Yes, we will call Dr. Mike Garvey.
Dr. Garvey, can you move to the witness stand and the court reporter will swear you in? Could you turn on the microphone? Thank you. All right, let's just do a quick test. State your full name.
Michael Garvey.
All right, that's good volume for everyone to hear. Very good. Mr. Garvey, Dr. Garvey, could you identify what is your current position with the school district?
I'm currently the superintendent and business manager.
And how long have you held that position?
A little over a year.
Do you have a recollection of approximately when you commenced work for the Raymond School District?
It was at the end of October of last year.
From October of 2022 through the present, have you had occasion to discuss with Mr. Peterson your expectations concerning his employment?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to do just a little bit of housekeeping first. We're going to identify some documents so that we all have a good start to what's in our binder. So this will be a little bit cut and dry, but we're going to go to it. Could you start in your binder at Exhibit 1 and tell the board what that document is?
That is a copy of Mr. Peterson's 2021 to 2023 contract.
Turn to tab 2. What is tab 2?
A copy of Mr. Peterson's 2022-24 contract.
And you heard my opening statement with regard to Mr. Peterson being an at-will employee. Let me just ask you, are you aware of anything in his contract or policy or cause for non-renewal of his contract?
I am not.
Right. Turn to tab 3.
What is, it's a lengthy document, what is Exhibit 3?
This is an investigative report that was conducted or submitted to the board in October of 2022, prior to my arrival in the district. And it relates to a complaint that was received by the district, and the board hired an independent investigator.
I recognize you weren't working, you were here at Raymond at the time, but have you come to familiarize yourself with the basic circumstances that led to the completion of the report at Exhibit 3?
I have. If you note that date that I shared, that was the week before I came to the district. So I worked with the board through the process of finishing this concern.
All right. So was there, in fact, to your knowledge, a complaint that was raised with respect to Mr. Peterson's employment?
Yes.
And you indicated that that was investigated by a third party, correct?
It was.
And is this report, to the best of your understanding, the third party's investigation report concerning that complaint?
Correct.
Could you turn to tab 4, please? What is Exhibit 4?
Exhibit 4 is a notice of written reprimand that was the result of the board's review of that report and the original complaint.
And I noticed on page 2 of Exhibit 4, it appears to me to have your signature. Is that correct?
It does.
All right. So as you indicated, I think earlier, you came in at a time where the report had either been prepared or was about to be prepared, and then you took action in response to that report.
Correct.
All right. Did you issue Mr. Peterson a written reprimand based on the findings of that investigation?
Yes.
And is this, in fact, the written reprimand?
It is.
All right. And the document really does speak for itself, but I do want to note a few things. The first finding, do you see at the beginning, maybe 3 paragraphs down, there are some findings?
I do.
All right. Were those findings ones that were determined by the independent investigator?
They are.
Okay, so those were, you were just kind of copying over from what the investigator had concluded, and you put those in the reprimand?
Yes.
Okay. You then, it appears, toward the bottom of page 1 and onto page 2, based on those findings, you issued performance expectations. Do you see that?
I do see that.
All right. And I don't need you to read it. The board can read that in closed session. I'm not going to waste the time to do that. But can you, in your own words, if possible, just share with the board what, and if you need to look at the document, that's fine too, but what were your expectations of Mr. Peterson following the investigative conclusions?
Well, I think the findings, spoke to the issues, and so I outlined the finding and the expectation that the principal does not engage in that type of activity in the future.
All right.
And then the way the second one is reading points out that effective communication needs to improve.
Right. You ended the written reprimand with, if you need any resources or assistance in any of these areas, please let me know. Do you see that?
I do see that.
Did Mr. Peterson ever request resources or assistance in any of the areas outlined in your written reprimand?
The relationship we had was quite a bit of communication, more informal than formal writing. And so there were a a number of times we talked through scenarios and how we might address these things together.
Right. Turn to tab 5. Again, a lengthy document. We don't need to read it line by line, but what is it?
The board had employed HYA, Hazard Young and Taya Associates, which is a superintendent or a leadership search firm for school leaders. And as part of that, their process includes focus groups and interviews and surveys, and what the result of that process is.